that originally was planned in April, and we were trying to make this project happen before April, and then we were trying to make it happen before September. And now, even if you were wanting to move forward with this, it won't be done until, it'll take a while. It won't be done in time for this September's 50th anniversary.
I don't think that's gonna
And
happen.
that was one reason, is in addition to just the basic need for maintenance of this type of building that is pretty well used. And it's one of those things that if you want to spend the money now and do the maintenance, it's this price. If you spend the money later, it'll be a little bit more, and so on, over the years as things start to continue to deteriorate. But there is no catastrophic structural issue that I know of pertaining to this, or sense of urgency, other than responsible maintenance. And if the longer we put it off, the more expensive it will be. And so that's the information. Did that answer any questions? I have no opinions in the matter. This is your building, and it's your money that you've got to decide how to spend wisely under the given circumstances. So I'll be glad to answer questions in any matter of that sort.
Well, after you gave this to us last week, and we went through that, Design Construction's letter of offering, it's really vague in my opinion, Where's the 8,250 square feet that's gonna be repaired, and what does that repair consist of? And then, painting, is that all the building, the 27,000 square feet?
It is, and I do remember one of the questions that Lloyd, that you were asking about. It was on item, shoot. Lloyd, you remember the question you were asking me? It was about one of the items here on the contractors on this list of stuff.
Well, what I was asking for was a breakdown of what the per square foot cost was.
Okay. I do not have that, other than, dividing that total price out by the.
And the reason for asking those kinds of questions are when I look at standard costs in the industry, it indicates that EIFS materials cost about 86 cents a square foot, and that labor is between $5 and $8 a square foot. So it's a benchmarking issue. And so
I remember I do remember y'all had asked for a breakdown of a square foot. I have not received it. I did call those brothers with some of those questions. It's been over a week or two. I have not received that back yet.
yeah, well, as a forewarning,
Yeah.
you will get these kind of questions
I got you.
henceforth, so you might anticipate that.
Do you
So-
know the square footage of the building? Or is that in here?
It is on the next
Oh,
one. on design.
27.3.
That's for the square feet painted.
27,000, over 27,000 square feet.
So you wanted to update the date also,
Yeah.
because they said it was good for 30 days, and that was in January.
When we had, when I had talked to them back when we were talking about the Balboa Clubhouse project, these prices were still good, which was just a month or so ago, I believe. But yeah, I will get that confirmed. The prices are probably still good.
So that works out to about $6.17 a square, based on the 27.3.
How do you know which is painting and which is EIFS?
Are we not painting the EIFS?
Yeah, but we're not EIFSing the whole place.
I'm sorry?
But we're not doing EIFS on the whole place. We're just doing some EIFS.
Right.
Well, we have to repair some EIFS, it's
Right.
cracked and there's some minor defects and stuff like that.
So in the one proposal, though, they've laid out what the square footage was for a couple of items, so I don't know how they would have calculated their cost if they didn't know how many square feet they were going to
It was
repair.
in the RFQ, and that the bid package that we sent out, it was in that. I did not bring that with me today, so they're just duplicating the numbers that we gave them.
Okay.
Well, is there a way to break down the total cost estimate into its components? Like, how much is the EIFS
Sure.
repair specifically?
How much is the paint, how much is the EIFS repairs?
How much is the painting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I sure can, for the Oak Brothers, right? Okay.
So then
And so my question would be, if we gave them those specifications, where did we get them from?
Mike Sikora and wrote those up, and they also were required to come out and with a, I think it was a mandatory pre-bid meeting to come and inspect the buildings. Mike showed them all the facilities, and they were also required to take any measurements or evaluations of the building as they also went through it.
Okay.
So when we get down to the bottom, it says caulking all doors and windows and all expansion joints as needed. That's spelled out in the RFQ? Or is it just, because when you read this, you wonder, well, as needed, who's gonna make that determination that it's needed? So, you know, we're working off of this,
Right.
that's the problem, and I think we want more detail broken down.
I got you. It is required for them to do all the caulking, but let me get the.
But are we caulking certain a number of windows or doors, or are we just gonna go around at the end and inspect?
Yeah.
And whose decision is that? Is that Mike's decision, or is it the contractor's decision? Because the way the contract, this is written, you know, it's gonna be up to the contractor to make that decision.
Let me get a copy
Okay.
of that EFS, the
Thanks.
RFQ and send that to you for distribution. But that's where it's, everything comes from. A lot of it, they had to come out here on site, do their own homework and do an inspection. And let me double check that stuff, because I did not bring that with me.
Well, I think everybody's missed that opportunity to tell us if that information's available, and that's kind of the information we want to look at. Not the small, very detail, but the more, the pieces of the project and what they entail and how much it costs. I think that's what we really want in the future.
I got you. My
Okay.
apologies on that.
So if we powered washed ourselves, the building and that, I know that's not really your department, but you've been around here quite a while. Is that very costly to acid treat or treat it and then wash it?
It's just labor, just labor and equipment, time and materials. We have the capability of doing a certain amount of that ourselves, then we'd have to have lifts and things like that. to do
Right.
The higher parts of it. We do that a lot. We'll rent a lift that will do that, things like that, and do that. This is a big project here to do.
Yeah, no, it's a big building. Okay.
And the contractor's probably gonna have to do that preparation anyway as part of his repair work. They're gonna do that, that's cleaning the surface, preparing the surfaces for that. But if you're looking for just a quick washing, so to speak, you know, we can do those things too as well, or hire it out. I don't know if it'll give you much of a,
A boost, no, it's just a
Yeah.
question, that's all I
Yeah.
want. So, okay.
I wouldn't expect it to.
Does Morris, you have any questions?
No, not really, not more than you asked.
Okay, anybody else have any discussion? All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we'll move on to organization, planning. Tom, can you update us a little bit?
Sure, easy. We haven't met in the last 2
Okay.
weeks. So, my only statement is, I look forward to meeting with you guys again on Monday.
Budget, John?
Yes, just an update for everybody. I sent out an update last week while we took a breather. But just for the purposes of people tuning in right now, we have completed budget briefings with the following departments: recreation, lakes, food and beverage, golf, marketing, public works, and public utilities. On deck next, just scheduled this week, is Stephanie Heffer's new divisions. There's been a bit of reorganization with the department of, the departure of Jamie, and Stephanie is now over development, permitting and inspections, compliance, tourism and discovery, land acquisitions, real estate sales, and marketing. And we will, I don't know if you read my email, Thursday at 10:30, meet with her and several of her folks. I think when we get through that this week, we're pretty much on the downhill. The only really major departments left would be the two public safety departments. But those budgets should be pretty straightforward. I was gonna target the police department for sure, because gates, the whole gate budget normally would be under public safety. That's been pulled out now and, correct, is now under her jurisdiction, so we'll be able to talk about that on Thursday as well, so. That's pretty much it. One thing, just to re-solidify with the group, my final comment is, we had, as these departments take their tentative budgets through accounting and get that massage and all those other numbers figured out, I was thinking we would either ask the division manager, department manager, to come, and then him or her, along with Karina, could take us through the numbers of that particular department at one of our regular meetings. Or if we do it like we did back in the ad hoc days of 2018, when we had the ad hoc budget committee, that would be the controller just taking us through the numbers for that particular budget. But I think it'd be helpful, could be helpful if the director was also here too. And I'd like to get some thoughts on that, so we can determine a firm course going forward in the next few weeks. So, any thoughts?
Okay.
Would there be time to meet?
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts?
Would there be
He's
time to
looking at
meet
me.
with?
No, any thoughts?
Is there enough time?
Give me time to
meet
think
with
about
each
it. I'll let you know.
Department head?
Well, excuse me?
Would there be time to meet with each one of them? 'Cause it's gonna
There
get
would,
into
yeah,
the
yes.
crunch.
We would have to start like next week. We'd have
Well,
to start next week.
Yeah,
Are they at a point that they could do that?
Well, you're closer to that than I am.
Our first ones that we have met with, they have submitted their budget. There are some remaining factors that still need to be plugged in, which is from one of the last groups we've met with, which is the services under Jason. Because we are allocating those expenses differently, such as IT and fleet, building maintenance, and so forth. So those portions of the budget has not been filled in yet, but things that are specific that they were already controlling, they do have those ready for our first couple of groups.
So almost.
Yes, almost.
Yeah, so it's a question of, do we want to hear the majority, or if we want to hear and see how the whole budget lays out, so.
Well, and I think, in my opinion, wrapping everything together where we're actually being able to bring it back to one consolidated budget, that's gonna give us our biggest advantage of seeing where things really lie, because I'm afraid if we just look at individual budgets one-on-one, we may agree or disagree with particular items and amounts, but then once everything gets consolidated, especially due to subsidy amounts and so forth,
Mhm.
it could change the picture. So I think it really depends on what you guys wanna hear, and with that in mind, if I make any sense.
The big picture would be easier.
so I guess my input was going to be that I really think that's probably a finance department question to answer for us. And I'm pretty sure if we follow patterns of history, that the board, when we do the in front of the public, will be at a division level. So it might be better if this group takes a look at the high numbers. If that's, I'm understanding that's kind of what you're thinking. And I think, we'll be able to draw some conclusions from that. But, I mean, that's my input, but I would check off to the accounting people to tell us, finance people to tell us what they think is best.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
The, are you kind of done?
Yes.
The thing I think might be important is if we would lay out kind of a schedule leading up to when all this might happen, so that we're all kind of singing out of the same hymn book. And then the other thing, from both the planning and the budgeting side, that I certainly would like to request, and I know the board would appreciate it, is input on metrics that we ought to be shooting for 2021. By way of example, the compensation line. Currently, it looks like we're tracking, as of the end of July, at about 46.3% of compensation to revenues. What is an acceptable number and what should we be shooting for? And in the 3 to 5 year plan, how does that progress each year for us to be trying to benchmark what our labor to revenue ratio needs to be? And it's not just labor, it's compensation. So some metrics like that will be helpful, because we're going to have to establish those as benchmarks going into 2021 at the board level for the general manager to kind of gauge how he's doing too. So that's just a suggestion, if it can be done as part of the process.
I think we can work something out.
Well, numbers lie and liars number.
We've got a great accountant, she'll massage the numbers for whatever we
Yeah,
want.
2 and 2 equals 5.
What do you want the number to be?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I got it.
Any other discussion? All right, new business. Chip sealing. Jason, you're back up.
When we said chip sealing, are we referencing, what I call out surface treatments for roads and parking lots?
You said you had some money you needed to second half, and that's what I'm assuming this is all about?
Yes, sir, that's what it is. So in our budget, we have two line items for surface treatments, one for main corridors at $125,000, the other for surface treatments, residential streets at another $125,000. Previously, we have done a milling and overlay budget line item for $80,000. That is in progress, but we'll be finishing up pretty quick. And that project is doing basically items that require an asphalt laydown machine to place the asphalt. And we still have a lot more of that work needed to do out here in the village, where we have to do a lot of larger road-based repairs and base replacements. And that list I passed out to you there, just, I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a table of ongoing parking lot projects that are ongoing right now. Some of those parking lots will need a little bit of, well, we'll have to cut out the road and fix the pothole areas. Some of them will need a laydown machine, some won't. But that's just the general list. The ones that are yellow there are the ones that are already part of the 80,000 project. Those are 3 golf courses plus the admin building. And we are also just recently finished up paving Jacody Lane and some other areas. Alabanza, some of y'all heard a lot of conversation about Alabanza over off the Maderas Road area. All of the Maderas Road in the east area of the village, in some places got built on top of clay or not really good suitable materials for roads. And those areas are starting to fail now. And they're pretty large areas, usually larger than what we can just patch with a roller and a truck of asphalt. So we need a laydown machine, and a lot of times we have to go there and dig out large squares, replace the base, and wait for the asphalt paving machine to come. And we do have some of those areas still out there. There are large areas that are just gravel, waiting for them to be asphalted. And so what we were proposing to do is take one of these budget line items, which we call surface treatments, and that could be asphalting overlays or microsurfacing overlays, and take these funds and just add it to the existing contractor that we have already under contract, and have them continue on with the asphalt patching. Or we could go out for bids, or we could do nothing if you wanna wait on spending that money. And so the other list there, that's kind of long and small, those are a list of all the streets and areas where we've got ongoing or planned pavement repairs that will usually be those larger areas than what we can just hand patch ourselves with our own equipment. We'll need a asphalt paving machine to do it right. So we've got plenty, and that's not the whole list, that's just a fraction of the prioritized list that we have in our database.
So on this list, the highlighted items are in progress, correct?
Those are in progress, yeah, those are usually, that one is kind of, just for information, of parking lots that we have crack sealed and seal coated and striped, but in some of those areas, we will also need to do, it's not called out there, well, there is some on there called reconstruction. If you look down in the treatment type, there's some reconstruction areas, like the Cortez Fire Station has some bad parking areas that need to be reconstructed. There's lots of areas all over the village, and parking lot areas, that you have to dig that base out and replace it. But we also have a lot of residential streets too that have those areas. And that's what this $125,000 would be dedicated towards, addressing the most, the ones that we've already started doing repairs on, and then the ones after that, they're on that list. We'll reprioritize. We're constantly monitoring those conditions out there in the field, and the ones that are deteriorating faster, we go fix, or get them prepared to be paved.
So my question is, where are you getting the money from? Which projects?
So this is a budgeted line item that's not approved yet, but it was approved for this budget. The $125,000 would be used to continue the contractor using his asphalt laydown machine to come in and asphalt areas where we would have big gravel-based patches done here in the village. We used to get out ahead of the contractor and prepare these areas. And if you leave them too long, the residents will start complaining about these large gravel areas. So we try not to do too many of them to get too far ahead of the contract. We try to do them right when we have someone under contract to go do that.
Okay, so on this style list that was produced by management, we're talking about the,
Crack sealed project.
It's right,
Halfway down.
But the middle, halfway down the
Yeah.
first page.
okay.
they're right together, about midway down, surface treatments, 125,000 right on top of each other.
Right.
And knowing money's tight, we were just proposing to do one.
So you only want to do one of those?
Because money's tight, yes, sir, we're just proposing to do one and keep the ball rolling in that area.
And in your opinion, since you're the expert, if we don't do the other 125, is that gonna cause us problems? I mean, we're behind on roads now, so.
We're way behind. So being behind a little further is all we would be.
Faster I go, the behinder I get.
The trick is not to, not going out there and disturbing the road further, trying to do a repair and leaving it with just a gravel backfill. That really drives the residents crazy if it goes too long. So we try to keep a contractor under contract, so as we're preparing them, he's paving them within a week or two of us preparing it. But in some cases, we can't wait. Some places, those roads have already failed, and we've had to go in, dig them out, and replace them with good road-based materials, and they're still out there. Cody Road, I think there's some out there in Alabama. You may know a few areas here that I can't recall. So the question is can we spare $125,000 or not at this time? Either way, if the road fails, we'll go out there and fix the road base with gravel, just so so it remains functional.
Any questions?
Yeah. So, is it kind of fair to say this list is kind of more internal, would be done by the internal?
That's right, that's our internal list, of what we call ongoing, that we are watching and monitoring those areas.
And
Same
this is
thing.
external?
No, that's our list too.
Okay.
We come up with, we've got all of the square footages on that, and as far as, I mean, they all need some level of surface treatment, the parking lots, but they're not as many on the patching, except for the areas that are gonna be reconstructed.
Well, I know I'm kind of keep beating this dead horse, but how much of this 125 or 250 are we talking about that is going to be spent going out the door instead of being done internally? Do we know that?
Oh,
Yeah,
using
well-
outside,
Huh?
using outside vendors?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, so how much of the 125,000, we could do all of that, would be paid to the general contractor to lay down asphalt for contracted work. The other part.
I think, Jason, the question is, out of the 125,000 you're asking for, how much of that will be in-house versus outside vendor?
Right, if you want me to get that.
50/50? Just
I would say
ballpark.
it's more like, if we charge, we have other budget items that we can charge base material to, but if we wanna charge it all to one project line item, that would be about 1/3 of the cost would be base materials, and our staff would go out there, dig out the old materials, replace it with purchased, crushed stone road base, and compact it and have it ready for the contractor to come. 2/3 of that cost would be the cost of asphalt and the contractor.
So you excavate and replace the sub,
Right,
and then the contractor just comes in and lays the overlay on it? Is that,
that's true.
that's the understanding?
That's true. So I guess there's three parts of this thing that we do. One is in-house where we will charge the cost of the stone base that we place it in there. We'll buy the asphalt that the contractor uses to lay it down, and we'll pay the contractor to lay it down.
Okay.
I
I mean, you're,
Sometimes the contractor will do all three of those for us. He'll he'll just take care of the whole thing for us as we assign it to him. Some places, the staff, if they're available, they'll go out and get ahead and go ahead and fix it for them. We just work together as a team. But those charges can get charged to that line item to keep the ball rolling. I have some budget that I can go buy stone with, under maintenance and things like that we can still charge to as a capital improvement. But, it's a decision in the field there that either contractor will take care of this whole thing, or we'll get out there and prepare the stone base for it, and you go take care of something else and then come back and pave it.
okay. I just want to say, when we ask questions, we're not attacking you. You know what you're doing, you're the professional. You're kind of teaching us that there's 3 phases to that, removal, putting the sub base in, and then buying the material and having somebody with the proper paving machine to pave that.
That's right.
So sometimes, people that come in here and tell us, we don't quite understand everything, and we just want more detail that you've already looked at, but you have to help educate us.
I mean, I can give you as much detail as you want.
I know that, you can overwhelm us, don't do that.
But for example, who's gonna go first here? If you were to ask me, well, why don't you give me a prioritized breakdown of how that 125,000 would be spent? I can come back and do that, using that information you have there in front of you. I'd go through, ask the guys, what's the most highest priorities now that of all those streets that we're monitoring? And we would pick the ones that would add up to 125,000 today. A month from now, it could change a little bit. And we could, move forward with that. Or you could come back and say, well, instead of 125,000, we'll just approve 100,000. Then I could move forward. I could still come back to you with a prioritized list, or you could just say, go get it done. Work that list, however you want it done. But everything on that list is our list of priorities that we're monitoring those areas, and we're trying to address them as quick as we can.
Along this line, there is a line item on the sheet that was green, which meant we were working on it, that indicates milling and overlay project. It says in progress.
Yes, sir, that is the 80,000 project that's already been ongoing, that we have the asphalt contractor under contract for.
Okay, it says $81,000 prior year rollover.
And it is just about coming to an end.
Yeah, it says we've spent year-to-date $135,000. Explain that to me.
Where's this at, now you're looking at?
I'm looking at this one's sorted by the green, the yellow, the red.
Okay, a milling overlay project.
Yeah, it's under,
I see
CW
28,000.
You have that?
I think he's looking at an updated list, Jason.
Well, we have the old ones.
Can I have that?
hmm?
I thought I sent it to you. Maybe,
He's got your deed.
Yeah, do you guys need copies of this?
just for the moment.
So,
I didn't send it out to you. I sent it to you.
Okay. So that project has, obviously, we've already spent those funds, but we still have, that 81,000 can be broke down, as straight money that we paid to that, plus we may have had to go out there and buy some more rock, and the staff has charged for that, when they could have maybe charged it to something else.
Okay, well, I hope you understand what point I'm getting to here.
Right.
If we have a budgeted item and we're significantly past it. And so when we track these things, this has to play into what else we do for the rest of the year. So that's just a point. You know, it probably needs to be part of a variance report that gets reported on to the board, quite frankly, because it's a budgeted item.
The reports I get, I mean, I don't get the breakdown of projects, but we also try to track it in-house too as well. And there may be some other things that got included and charged to that project that created that overage that were still, maybe should have been charged to another project line item. I'll go through
Yeah,
that.
and again, I'm not being critical,
No, that's
I'm
no
just,
problem. I can
I'm just
explain
going by what the numbers tell me and trying to put some planning in place for the future. And speaking of planning, finance department, could we stop with the prior year rollover stuff,
Please.
Yes,
please?
we're not doing that again.
There is no such thing.
We instructed when, in the budget preparation, we said, do not expect a capital rollover. You start from scratch.
Yeah, rollovers, yeah,
Yeah.
every year starts from
Right,
scratch.
Yeah.
Okay.
All that means it was prior planned. It
No, I know.
It doesn't mean it was prior approved budget. It just means it was prior planned.
Okay.
But I think what we'd like to see is even though you have a project and it's approved in 2020, if you gotta carry it forward, you just use the same justification and say that we're not using that in 2019, we want it approved in or 2020, we want it in 21, and then when it goes to the budget, that money's automatically allocated there, but we only have one line of allocated budget for capital.
Right. I totally agree. So where do you think we should go on this 125,000?
Well, I'd like to do that, but we gotta get board approval. I mean, we'll,
Right. If you are okay with moving forward with that, I'll write up a memo to the board to whatever amount you would be comfortable with moving forward.
well, I don't make the decisions, I'm only the chairperson. These are the people that make those decisions, because I don't normally vote.
I get you. It's the process, you obviously, you would decide on how much funding we should move forward with, and then I'll write a memo to the board next month and we'll get the approval or not.
Well, back, I guess on that point, I would like to see that kind of broken down a little bit better as to what you're planning to be expended on outside vendors versus what will be basically handled in-house. You got three categories. You got outside vendors, you got materials, and then you've got internal labor.
That's correct.
So it would be helpful for me, I know, when looking at those kind of things, if I had those kind of breakdowns.
No, that's no problem. When's your next meeting? Next Tuesday or?
I was hoping the 8th.
Yeah, it was supposed to be last week, but.
Yeah, well, we're meeting tomorrow to decide when we're gonna meet.
It's not absolutely mandatory, but it would be really nice if at the September board meeting, we could get a continuation of the asphalt, because we're.
I think we can do that,
Okay.
Jason. It's just that we have to make the recommendation to the board of directors, and they actually have the final say on the monies, and that's not until the 16th.
16th, yeah.
Right.
So we'd like to have it a week ahead of time before a board meeting, so that we can get our ducks in a row for us to make the presentation also.
No problem. I'm gonna send you back a breakdown of the existing expenditures, so we get some context on that, and a breakdown of the $125,000 that we would spend in a very, micromanagement, specifically in those areas,
Okay.
in the allocation.
Can we get-
And I'll also give you the breakdown of the other information from that contractor that we haven't received yet for you as well. I'll email it to you, Wayne, and can you distribute, would that be appropriate? for you to
I can do
distribute
that.
way?
That was the question. Can we
I'm
get
getting better
before
at the email system that you have, but I'm getting better.
Okay, well, it works great, we communicate very well, and I can do that. Any other questions in that area?
Yeah, unfortunately, I may be asking you to repeat everything you just said. You're asking for 125,000. Okay, the first thing I note is the stuff in the yellow. So you're asking, that is part of the 125,000?
No, sir,
Oh.
that's for your information of how we are monitoring our parking lot
Okay.
situations.
Mhm.
Some of those parking lots are just being seal coated, which isn't
Right.
part of this, or crack
Okay.
seal. There's a couple of line items that say reconstruction. And there's a couple at the bottom.
Right.
Areas that say, and not that they would be on our prioritized list, but those are parking lots that we're monitoring that would require you to rebuild the base and come in there and put down an asphalt laydown machine on top of that.
Mhm.
When we come back to hit 125,000 and we ask ourselves how to best spend that based on the current need, we'll look at both those sheets and determine which items that add up to 125,000 have the greatest need. And that's what I'm gonna bring back to you,
Okay.
is on that here. That's what I'm gonna send back to you, Don.
On the second page, it says mill and overlay. The top part says sub-base is fixed, which I think you're saying,
All you have to do
that's
is,
essentially shovel-ready stuff.
yeah, all you have to do is asphalt those areas.
Right, so it seems to me that if somebody gave you 125,000, which I think is us, the 89,344, that to you is high priority. That's way at the top of the list?
Just because they're the most costly doesn't mean they're the highest priority.
No, it's not because it's costly, but when you say sub-base is fixed, I thought that's when you essentially meant you dug up the street, you laid the gravel, and if you don't fix it, people start getting unhappy. So that, to me, is
Yeah, those are
it's a high
areas,
priority.
you're right, those are areas that we've already gone out, we
Mhm.
fixed the sub-base and they're exposed gravel
Right.
areas. So all we have to do is come in and asphalt it. And you're right, those areas would definitely be a high priority for us because the residents, I know, are getting
Right.
unhappy about it. You're absolutely
Right,
right.
so with the 125,000, your little, computer of
Right.
optimizing spending, this list gets extra points
It will-
because it appears to be urgent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so on top of that, if you spent 90,000 one way or the other,
Mhm.
that leaves you with 35 to further optimize your spending.
Very true,
Okay.
very true.
All right,
We'd still ask ourselves, we'd evaluate all the information again,
Mhm.
because things have changed. Because some of the folks may only have one house,
Right.
or two houses down the end of the roads, and we would evaluate on the priorities of high traffic areas, high disturbed areas, and try to spend that money as best possible, make as many people as happy as we can at the
Okay.
same time.
And if we approved, say, another 125,000, then this whole list starts getting into place.
Yeah, if we can look at more areas,
Okay,
definitely.
very good.
But we got lists on lists on lists.
Have a better understanding of what we're supposed to be
Okay.
evaluating. Appreciate
And
it, thank you.
I do have another question. How long will it take you to finish the top portion of this list that already is just already ready for asphalt? Month, weeks?
It'd be, if I had the contractor blowing and going, weather permitting, it'd probably take a month, because that's a lot, he would get a lot of that areas done. And, you can go to several areas per day and knock those areas out, yeah.
And then when's your usual cutoff for laying asphalt down in this area?
Well, we'll lay as late as October, at the end of October,
Okay.
November, it gets starting to get lots, very rainy and starts getting cold. stuff. I mean, you can lay asphalt in cold weather, but on a sunny day here in Arkansas, it's not, a lot of times it's just fine. But,
Great.
okay.
Any other questions?
I do want to just one, make just an announcement. We do have a very difficult labor situation in our sanitation department. Maybe you're aware of the throwers that ride on the back of the sanitation trucks. It is, we've lost one of our main suppliers of labor, and since November of last year, we have gone through 43 temporary and full-time staff people. So it's a very fluid situation as far as providing labor that will ride on the back of our sanitation trucks. And staff have already, we're just about on the latter stages of completing an initial business plan to present to you about converting those rear loaders to side loaders. Side loaders is kind of like an automatic pickup. All you need is one driver, and they automatically pick up, just like they do out in the counties, automatically pick that up and dump the loads. They provide the carts to all the residents. And I really see, and this is something I wish we had been able to do 3 or 4 years ago. We made that attempt and it didn't move forward. I'd like to, because of the labor situation and the cost of labor and the unreliable supply of labor in that particular area, we really would like to present that business plan to you and see if we can't find a way to manage a phased conversion, something that's manageable, and start relieving the POA of the labor needs in that particular area. And so that's coming, and just stay tuned. Okay.
So how would that work for walk-in delivery? That's not the correct term, but
At-house pickup.
At-house pickup.
We would still provide the at-house pickup just like we do. We would, one of the options we're proposing is to buy a small, tiny sanitation truck. That one driver is so light that you could actually drive up the driveway and get close to the residents' at-house pickup and unload their trash for them there.
They would need a particular type of can though, correct?
Not on that one.
No?
On that one, that'd be a manual, pull the bags out and throw it in the truck.
Oh, it would
Type of a thing. Or drag the dumpster down to the truck, and if you can't have an automatic tipping unit on it, you can do those things too as well.
Well, Jason, wouldn't you have to have all new,
Now, you're gonna steal all the thunder of the presentation, you ask all these questions right now.
Well, you brought it up.
Just trying to prepare that anticipation a little bit. But the details of all those things and how we do it, we'd like to present all that, the cost, the financing options, or not, the ROI, the saving on staff, the whole picture. We'd like to do that. It'll be very interesting, I promise you, but just want to let you know, we'd like to bring that into the conversation as we prepare for next year. And whether you decide to or not, I think it's very critical that we at least have that knowledge of what it will cost to do that conversion, because I really do think we're going to be heading that way sooner, hopefully better than later. And I'd like to get it in the mix, that's all.
all right, we'll
Jason,
look
all I was
forward to
gonna
that.
ask is, do I have to buy a new garbage can? That's all.
Oh, somebody's got to pay for it, but we have ideas on how to finance those cars and stuff. Okay.
Okay, you're on. Balboa Club.
Feels like Groundhog Day with Balboa Club. Okay, so I gave you guys a project proposal, and I apologize that that didn't get out to you ahead of time, but we'll run through it fairly quickly, and if I have questions, or if you have questions, feel free to stop me at any time and ask those. The first page is really just an overview, and I'll hit these points pretty quickly, but the building itself was built in '87. It's 33 years old, and it was pretty fully functional, and I say that loosely. That does not mean it was not subsidized, but does mean it was operational until 2013, both upstairs and downstairs. In 2013, Banana Leaf Restaurant left the building, and since then it has been unoccupied and non-operational on the second floor. The downstairs remains open and operational, as everybody knows. We have the golf shop as well as a pretty limited service food and beverage operation. And then as we know, the board asked us in July of this year to take a look at just the baseline minimums that it would take to get the outside of the building up to speed. And so that's what we're gonna talk about today, is just exterior maintenance. Our objectives are pretty simple, which is to protect that asset from further deterioration and to improve the appearance so that we don't look like we have an old, outdated, icky building in the middle of our community and with an active golf course right there. So you'll see the goals: repair the EFA system, replace the windows, improve the landscaping. You have to do one, you can't do one without the other. Power wash the roof tiles, replace any broken tiles to prevent any future leaks, and replace the decking on the upstairs as well, because it just looks real bad. So before I move on to the second page, any questions on the first? Nope. Okay.
Why are you using a contractor for the tile roof?
We're
For
not.
pressure washing?
Oh, that is actually because they threw it in to the EFS repair, honestly. Mike's not here, he's the one that talked to it, and we haven't bid this out, so let me just say this is just a cost estimate. This is,
Okay,
yeah, so
thank you.
once we write specs and all that, we can configure it any way we like, but this is just a way to give you guys a pretty solid basis for what we would budget, okay? So, on that second page, you'll notice that I've called out that this is very much a phase one of what needs to be a longer-term project for the Balboa Club. This does not get us, you know, to the end game here. This just gets the outside fixed. Total square footage is about 20,000 square feet. That's square footage of the interior of the building, not the exterior. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And some of the things that we've done to date are, we had an open house back in 2018, when I said Groundhog Day. Since it closed in 13, I think I've presented to the board 3 different plans on what we should or could do with the club. And of course, every year financial constraints hold us back. But we had a really good open house in 2018 where we had a lot of people show up that wandered through the building, gave us lots of input, and that was fantastic. It prompted a subcommittee to be formed, and they did a lot of research. They made some recommendations, 2 of which were to get a structural and NP evaluation, which we did in December. I have that here if anybody would care to take a look. We spent just almost $10,000 on that evaluation. We have really good information on what's wrong in that building. Upstairs, downstairs, exterior, interior, all the mechanical systems. The other thing they asked us to do was make sure we didn't have any hazardous materials, asbestos or mold or anything that would cause us additional problems. We spent a couple $1,000s on that too in 2018. Okay, page 3. As I mentioned, 33 years old. I won't go back into that. The detailed project description describes some of what we would be specking out and what we're recommending need to be done. And again, I think you guys were all in that board meeting, but it was myself, Mike Sikora, Jason Temple, and Tucker Alejandro really done the majority of the walkthrough and evaluation. What do we have to do? So the big stuff down at the bottom, the project cost. And I have broken this down, and I'm happy to break it down farther, but again, this is not a bid. This is an estimate based on one single source vendor that gave us some price costing, okay? So the EFS repair that we have received from the one vendor, as an aside, it is the same vendor that gave us the cost estimates for this building that Jason just mentioned, Oak Brothers. So $61,000 to do the EFS repair. That's about 13,000 square feet of EFS, and it's right at $4.69, $4.70 a square foot for that EFS repair. And then to paint all of that after it's done is $84,000. Power washing that clay tile roof is $3,000. I mentioned Mike went ahead and got that in the estimate when he talked to the Oak Brothers when they were going to be there. And then replacing the broken clay tiles is something that we would do in-house at $7,600. We've estimated, and you can see to the side how many employees Mike thought he would use, the number of hours it would take to do each of those independent items there. Landscaping, materials, $2,500. In-house labor, which would be done by our golf department maintenance staff, $2,280. Window replacement, there are actually 48 windows upstairs and down that are bad, and that is a $22,000 number. The deck replacement material, $3,500. We did we could save a little bit of money if we go back with treated lumber. I did go ahead and put the composite decking material right there. It's not enough money really to make that much difference to get that longer last. So $3,500 for deck replacement. The labor for installing that and power washing and, or not power washing, what do you call that? Sandblasting, sanding, all that, the railing and then repainting it would be done in-house. And then power washing the exterior rock and masonry that's around, not the ephes, but there's a whole bunch of rock, if you'll recall. We would do that in, actually that is, yes, I'm sorry. We would do part of it in-house, but we would have to rent a lift, which is the $1,900, and the chemicals that we would have to purchase as part of the hard cost for the power washing of the rock. So all in all, the hard costs are $177,900. We estimate our in-house labor at $13,828. I've added a 20% contingency there. That is only on the hard cost. It does not, it's not 20% on top of that soft cost. And that brings us to a total project cost estimate of $227. Based on just general numbers and things that, research we've done, we believe we're gonna save around $10,000 to do the items that we have in blue there in-house. It's not significant in this scope of work, but it's something. And,
With the soft cost and the contingency, which may or may not happen, that would take off about 50,000 of it, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
If you remove the soft cost, which there are people who will
Yes.
pay anyway.
Yes, if you remove the soft cost and the contingency, you're right, about 50 grand. Yep, right. That's right. Any questions on that page?
Yeah, the ephes repair,
Yes.
61,000. What's to prevent that from happening as soon as it's repaired? Like it's dented with golf balls, from what I understand, right? Hitting it and
It is,
damaging it?
and I think that's an excellent question, and I'm not an expert in ephes, but I will tell you, I would venture to say the exact same thing as you just said. It will undoubtedly happen again.
Well, up
I mean, it's the
above,
same material, it's the same product, and the golf balls are not gonna quit
yeah,
flying.
up above, under current conditions, it says landscaping will need to be modified so that it doesn't damage ephes after repairs are made.
Yeah.
The only way that's gonna happen is, probably put some tall trees in front of it, but landscaping materials only has $2,500, so if the plan is to protect it with landscaping, then the landscaping materials is probably, extremely underestimated,
And that is.
unless there's another material that could be used.
Yeah, it's not so much about, there is no plan in place to protect the building from the golf ball strikes. The landscaping that we're talking about really is what's overgrown and in front and is actually sort of imposing itself onto the ephes, which leads to deterioration of, so it's foundation level, not high. Correct. So we do not have anything in this plan in place to protect the building from golf balls. The only thing you could do, and it's, obviously the golf balls aren't hitting every part of the building. You could, we could, and we'd have to talk to Mike maybe. Jason is on that, it's obviously the backside of the building along number 18 there. Change that particular wall panel out to something different.
Like
That would, pardon me?
hardy plank?
Something, yeah, hardy plank would work, something on that. It's really that one side, and then if you recall how the building, it's kind of got these, gosh, I don't know what you can call those, or like arches, if you will, that sort of come off their architectural detail, but not part of the wall panel, they're kind of this arch thing, and that would be, there's some damage on those, on kind of the back side of the building. So that would be the one thing that you could do to modify this proposal, would be to change the material on the areas where the golf ball damage is the worst.
Or put up a retaining net
Yeah, a net.
behind
That's
the
true.
tree, between the tree and the building, so
Mhm.
it'd still be somewhat hidden
Mhm.
from public view totally, rather than being in front of the tree.
Yeah. We could also only allow low handicap golfers, just kidding. That's
Well,
joking.
I wanna tell you, none of those marks are mine. They would be if I played that course.
Yeah, no, that's a great question though. I think that's a great question. I don't think there's anything to say it won't eventually deteriorate again. It's,
What is the difference in, I don't know what hardy plate is.
Hardy plank, it's a
Hardy plank.
concrete,
it's a fiber cement board. It looks like wood. Most of like the original Cooper homes and things like that, a lot of those were built with hardy. It's a great product. It's a
How
little
would
bit.
that compare repair and cost of the EFS?
What would it cost to wrap it? I don't know.
It'd be expensive to wrap the whole thing. I mean, again, it's about 13,000 square feet, you know, that's minus all the windows and everything, just the EFS material. You know, it's doable, it's just expensive. I don't know though, we've not priced it.
It's more expensive than EFS.
You know, and as,
But it's
again, this
whatever.
is just a cost estimate for
Yeah.
repair of EFS. If we go out to bid, you know, we could write a spec that with more than one option, we could certainly do that. But I have no idea what the cost would be.
I don't either.
That would be a fairly simple figure though, honestly. Tucker could help us with that. I mean, he uses Hardy on houses and knowing 13,000 square feet, cost, paint, et cetera, it wouldn't be hard to
You really
figure.
only need the two sides, one of which is mostly windows.
Yeah. True.
But the balls never break the windows.
They have not. No, we have not had broken windows, not that I'm aware of.
I don't know, that's a horrible hook. I just can't think of that many balls hit this building.
Happens.
Some
Anyway.
people aren't perfect golfers like others.
Where they hit it too far, probably. I'm a little shorter.
So I really don't have much else. I mean, you know, this is again, this is sort of a standard project sheet that I've just used in the past, so there's some detail on there that probably is not necessarily relevant, but we try to track who's gonna be impacted by the work that we would be doing, just to try to keep, you know, make sure we don't forget to tell somebody something that affects some other person's business, you know, business objectives while we're doing projects, so.
Very nicely
that's
done.
Where we are.
One more, if I may. Is there any projected possibilities of use for the building that might be?
I could break out the
Revenue
3
producing?
proposals that I did in the last 3 or 5 years. There's a ton, there really are. I mean, there are lots of ideas out there, none of which have stuck or have presented a business plan that really got us to sort of a break even. And I don't know if that's the objective of this board, maybe it's not. So it really, if we knew what the objective was, if it's to get it operational, if it's to get it operational at 0, you know, net loss, those are two different things. We know for sure that it's too large to just be a restaurant. It's going to lose money, just no extent about it. Now, event center, you know, a place to hold larger scaled events, weddings, you know, anniversary parties, scaled things, I think that's a different story. Yeah,
But it needs to be something that's
yeah.
revenue or break even, because there aren't that many events of that type here. Now, hopefully that will change, but I don't think we need to look at what it might do in 10 years. We need to look at 12 months.
Yeah.
So when the truck hit the entry, how come that was never repaired properly?
You know, I wish I could tell you.
Where'd that money go? Did they not collect from the insurance company on the individual?
I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't involved in that, or I wasn't privy to that, so I don't know. Should have been, I agree. Should have been. And this does, I know there was a bit of discussion about the possibility of just tearing down that kind of porte-cochere, saving a little money there, and we could do that in-house, just take that piece out of the equation, save the clay tiles from that to use in future repairs of the existing clay tile roof. But this estimate does not show that. It shows us repairing those damaged parts and keeping that porte-cochere. But that's another way we could save a little money if we wanted to do it. Just eliminate that from the building.
So not to put you on the spot, but if we only had the money to do one project, Woodlands or Balboa, we've asked Jason this question and we got his answer. Which one would you opt for if you knew what the objective for the facility was? Balboa, that is.
I mean, it's kind of a loaded question, but I will tell you that Balboa is obviously in much worse condition, and it is deteriorating at a much faster pace than this building. I think this building has more years of life in it before it gets even close to where we are at Balboa in terms of damage.
And that's a fair answer, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
I have a couple of questions. So you're saying with the roughly $200,000, make all these repairs, and let's suppose we find a solution, a cost-effective basis for the golf ball issue, then the Balboa Club building as is can be carried forward for some period of time, whether it be 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's keeping the interior from further deteriorating is that the heating and air systems are in pretty good shape. So when we close that geothermal loop, and there's a combination of systems in the building, from heat pump to, traditional heat pump and the geothermal, there was a period of time where it did not work well at all, but it does today. And I think with the exterior, as long as we don't have to experience much worse leaks, and that is, I'm certainly not making that promise, but roof leaks, if we don't have that and the interior remains heated and cooled, I think you're in good shape for a while. You can sit back and wait for a little while longer.
Do you have any wild guess as to what the current carrying cost of the building is?
Yeah, I know you've asked me that, I can tell you that, well, I shouldn't, I'm not gonna try to commit to that. I can tell you what it kind of used to be, and the monthly electric bills are, somewhere in that $3,000 range, I believe. You've got taxes and insurance on that, the payroll and staff, the golf staff, it's minimal. They have 1 to 2 people in the shop when the golf course is open. Restaurant typically has 1 person on duty, maybe 2 at the most. So operationally, labor is not very high. There's not much else. The water, you've got water, your normal utilities. So I guess I would say it's gotta be somewhere in that $10,000 a month range. Now, I think that would be at the high end of it, but does that
We
sound
have to
close?
look, I'm not,
Yeah,
I can't ballpark that one off the top of my head either.
It's on her to-do list.
It's a tough,
She
it's
just
tough
doesn't
one to
know it
ballpark.
yet.
I don't think it would be more than 10 though.
I
At
wouldn't
least what
think
it
so.
used to be. I used to know that pretty well, but I haven't done it anymore.
And I assume at this point, the building itself is fully amortized.
I would assume,
I would think so, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because I don't think we've done any major renovations, other than, weren't the cart barn was underneath at one time, and it was.
The only thing, and I will insert my opinion here, is that if you commit to this $200,000 external, repair, you're committing to keeping that building, which is fine. But know that just because the inside is not necessarily deteriorating further, it requires a lot of work. So you're not done spending money. It's just not. You've got a plumbing system that is in terrible shape, ADA requirements that all have to come up to code. Electrical, it has deficiencies, and I'm happy to share with you guys the engineering report that goes into detail of all of those things, but you're not done. This is really and truly just to get the outside complete. So just know that you've got some decisions, big ones to make.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I was going to say, this is the start of a potential money pit operation. It really is. There's a lot that needs to happen with that building. It's old, it's in sad shape. The 300 people that attended 2 years ago, I was one of those. And I'd say the other 299 people, I'm being just, were from the Balboa area. So there's a vested interest there with that building and an allegiance and and I get that. The rest of the village, not so much. If it came down to do we spend this money or not, it's just my take on it. So.
It's a tough call not having a one big picture. Where it's going.
I'm kind of coming to that same conclusion, but the cost of tearing down the building were roughly 200 also, were they not?
Yeah, about 150, between 150 and 2. It's expensive no matter which way you go, let me just say that. If you're gonna have a golf course there, if you tear it down and rebuild it, it's expensive. If you keep it, it's expensive. We just have to know which direction we're going.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other new business? All right, members' comments? Teasers are? Morris?
I have no tasers. I have no tasers, King.
How many dents did you put in that Balboa wall over the years? That's what I want to know.
Not enough.
Are we to make a recommendation to the board regarding Balboa?
Yeah, what's the
Or
next
is that-
process? What's our role?
I think we need time to absorb and And then when our next meeting, we'll take that up in old business and
Yeah.
make a recommendation.
And between now and then, I think I bring up to the board that a purpose for the building needs to be discussed and determined before we go down the path of asking for an RFP and getting all the bids and that kind of thing. I think that's a point well taken. Not the first time I've heard it, but I think it's a good idea.
John, any words of wisdom?
Not right now?
Tom? Jema?
No wisdom.
Karina? Lloyd?
I'm good.
Okay. I do want to tell you that we have Gary Belair in the back room, and he had submitted his name to the Finance and Planning Commission a long time ago, and John, Tom, and I interviewed him, and we're going to submit his name to the board for approval, and he will be joining us if he gets board approval, which I don't see a problem. And he has been attending the budget meetings, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, and so would you please continue doing that? With no other comments, unless we have a guest, I call for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
And second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.